Hello and welcome to the Operators Association podcast. My name is Cody Alford, and today I am going to talk about my journey into the United States Marine Corps and the progression that it led me all the way to Marine Special Operations. Right? You don't have to be a Marine to start figuring out who you want to be, right? So I instantly connected with certain people in the platoon that were like kind of like on the same wavelength as I. We kind of thought the way we thought. We shared common interests. We weren't really scared. We were people that volunteered. We weren't afraid to go do push-ups if we got in trouble or busted for something. We were kind of like those dudes who were like pushing the envelope, right? Like, hey, I'm hungry. Let's find a solution to this problem. And we kind of just all connected, and it's crazy. You never hear those stories about prison, and you're like, man, how are they getting like a fucking big screen TV and a Big Mac in there? Like, dude, you don't want to know how it gets in there, but dude, they can get in anything, right? They can make anything happen. And I really felt like that with my boot camp experience. It was like, dude, I can literally make anything happen in here that I want to for the most part. What am I willing to do? You know, I can be a leader if I'm willing to put out. I can be a smart, book smart person if I put out and actually retain this information and actually apply myself. I can fill a gap if I need to, plug a gap, if I need to, as long as I'm smart enough to identify a gap and what are my multiple courses of action that I could take. Um, there's I'd be lying to you if I told you I'd never try to see what I could get away with, what I could do, what I could do. And they say, hey, don't talk to people. But then I saw a recruit that was like, really feeling down on himself, like being able to talk to that person, like that's pushing the envelope. I did what I wasn't supposed to do. Or when you're running and someone's like really slow and they're like, no, leave that person behind there. And then like you go back and a couple other people go back and you're all teaming up with this fucking dude that's having a hard time. And you're not treating him like coddling him, but you're like, yo, dude, you got this. Let's fucking go, dude. They're going to beat her ass. And then they get motivated and they run with you. Sometimes the people only need that push, right? That extra jolt of energy, and being able to start exploring those worlds of just different aspects, while in boot camp, it's crucial, and I really think that it helped me, continue to grow as a Marine that I did and as a man that I did. Because from the beginning, I didn't allow my fear, because I was so excited to be there. I didn't allow my fear to keep me from trying to pursue different avenues or seeing what's broke and try to see how I can apply anything and like make it better. So if you find yourself in that moment, don't confuse your excitement with your fear or anxiety to like step forward or volunteer for something you want to do. Hey, if you wanted to be there since a kid or even the last 6 months, that's what you really wanted to do. Well, when you get there, any opportunity you get to like step up and do something, step up and do it. You never know you're going to be able to do it unless you do something about it, right? And you can start learning that life lesson early on, and you'll only grow from that and build upon that in your military career or any career in life. But you have to actually put the effort in. You actually have to like start that fucking progression. So if you find that opportunity, whether you're in the military now listening to this or you're getting ready to go to boot camp, like take risk, but take the right ones, right? They say, hey, I need a volunteer for like, you know, I need a volunteer for fucking shit detail. Okay, raise your fucking hand. Better than staying in the barracks getting fucked up anyway. Or like, hey, I need volunteers to be a squad leader. Step the fuck up. Do you want to be a follower your whole life, or do you want to fucking start learning how to fucking do what right looks like now, right? So you can apply it to all aspects of your life. So don't be scared, right? Um, but the new faces, all these new opportunities, it was just crazy. And you have to capitalize on the fear, right? Like I said, helping each other out, encouraging others, looking at the solution and not the problem, right? Like focus on fucking achieving. And that's what I did in boot camp. I did all these things and I found out that boot camp was kind of easy. And naturally, it just kind of flowed. Everyone fits into this routine and has this purpose there. And I remember one day I knew I wanted to be the guy. The guy is like the person in charge of the platoon, and I wanted to be the fucking guy, man. I wanted to fucking do it. I wanted that job. I wanted that. And one day I was chosen to be guide, and I fucking fought like hell to like keep that position because they'll fire you anytime. And I was finally guide one day. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like I'm like, I'm not, I don't think I was better than anybody. I was just picked because I was picked. But at the time, I think I displayed what they were looking for. I displayed, leadership. You know, me and the other candidates that were like on the docket to potentially get picked for guide, those are all dudes that showed the fuck up. They stepped up. They weren't hiding in the corner, you know, hoping to make a difference, but not really do anything about it. You know, these are dudes I was up against, you know, we were all, you know, looked at for selection. These are all dudes who didn't allow fear to hold them back. And so being a guide, you know, it was like you gotta bring the fuel, man. You gotta fucking operate on all cylinders because they'll fire your ass if you start slacking. And at the same time, too, you know, I'm starting a fucking career. If I start fucking these dudes over now, they're gonna know I'm a bitch and that I fucked them over. And then when we get out of boot camp, you know what I'm saying? So like this is a great time to start meeting these people, building these connections, and holding yourself accountable and becoming the Marine and the person that you want to be, even when it's just by yourself in your own fucking head, looking at things as a bigger picture, right? Being a problem solver, not a fucking problem starer, you know what I'm saying? Being part of the solution and not the problem. So here I am as a fucking guide, and I'm like super pumped. And the best thing about the guide was that yeah, I was in charge. You know, I got to like represent my platoon. I was super proud of that. My platoon number was 2093. I don't remember much about a lot of things, but I can remember that and I'll never forget that. And it's really cool to have that memory, you know, like my father did, like I hear other dudes' stories, is because, you know, no matter what you think about the military, what your views are before you serve, while you serve, or after you serve, you know, what you're doing, and this is any aspect of life, but what you're doing is you're stepping up to a plate that you said, hey, I'm going to do this, or I have no other option but this, and you show the fuck up and you made it happen. So no matter what your intentions were to go there, you had to pass. You had to meet a standard. You had to get pushed. You had to do all these things, right? So it's just a really ingraining moment, and it was like really defining for me because literally everything in my life leading up to that point was just to lead me up to that point. You know, so don't underestimate the power that boot camp can have to you, and these stories and these experiences you can have, because they'll change your life. You might not notice it now. You might not notice it 5 years from now. You might not notice it 2 decades from now. But one day, it's going to click for you and be like, oh my goodness, look at that. Beautiful. So one thing about being a guide in boot camp is I loved food, and I joined boot camp at like 161 pounds, and I wasn't that big. I was this tall, skinny white dude, and like I was fucking hungry, and I was like one of the skinniest guides that existed, right? So out of all the other guides that were in charge of the platoon, I was like probably like one of the skinnier ones, comparable. And you go to the chow hall, and you all march to the chow hall, and it's like super regimented. It's super it's really crazy, right? It's like it's fucking next level. And you get there, well, the guide eats last, right? You're the last one to get your food. By the time you're getting your tray, most of your dudes are already sitting down, like shoving food in their face. Well, the rule goes is once I get to the table, if I'm not getting yelled at or getting like, you know, distracted by the drill instructors, you know, and I'm sitting down, I'm like scarfing food in my face. And boot camp, you can only carry one thing at a time in each hand. So like, you're like making some trips to get water or milk if they allowed you to have milk. Like it's fucking nuts. It's very regimented. And the rule is once one person's done at your table, the whole table is done. And then once that table is up, all the surrounding tables, it's like a domino effect. And so by the time I'm sitting down, the first table is about to be done with their food. So I'm like, fuck, man, if they weren't really paying attention, right? If we weren't like, hey, being observant, they wouldn't even see me not even sitting down yet. They'd get the fuck up. So I'm shoving down food even faster in my mouth. And I hated that. I hated that being a guide sometimes, like most of the time, it really kept me from like getting my fucking food, because I lived for the food breaks in boot camp because it was a nice monotonous break. You knew when your day was about to start, you knew when it was about to way over, and you knew when it was coming to an end. And it was really cool because you're not wearing a clock, you're not looking at time, everything is so scheduled, you're just on autopilot, you're executing, you're performing. And it was really cool, and I really enjoyed those moments, and I found the great things about those moments, and I enhanced them, I maximized them. Like I really enjoyed having like this cereal stuff like for breakfast, you know, I really enjoyed this thing for lunch, I really enjoyed the opportunity to have this thing for dinner, and it was just something to look forward to, because there was days in boot camp where it was hard, you know, challenging. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge you, and having those things was a great way to break that up. But like I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm hungry as hell, dude. And so I found out that, you know, I could scarf my food down fast, but I'd be out of my food fast. And I always felt hungry, and it was never enough. So they had this thing at the time, I don't know if they still do, it's called double reds. And they this little lapel thing that you wore in your pocket, and uh you like wear that shit for like like you show that to the cafeteria and like, hey, I get extra food, and they'll like fucking pour you extra food. Well, I ended up making one of those one night for myself, and I would like tuck the thing out, get my food, and I'd tuck it back in before I saw a drill instructor. And dude, I ran that for the rest of boot camp, and it worked out great. I'm like, shit, these fuckers aren't gonna feed me. I'm gonna find a way, dude. And that's what it takes. It takes some time to find a way. I'm not recommending you to do what I did, but it worked for me, and I definitely didn't go hungry. But boot camp was really it was fun, right? And there was a lot of these parts where like you're like, oh, I finally get to do the the pugil sticks, or I get to do this obstacle course, right? These flashbacks that I got to see in movies, I'm finally getting to do there. But the greatest thing is you find that like everyone's starting up and they're a hot mess about boot camp. They don't know what the fuck's going on. You don't know what the fuck's going on. Everyone's worried about this event or these silly things, and you start changing phases, and you're like, you're just seeing the progression of everybody, how everyone's faster, more coordinated, more like in tune with each other. The bullshit, like the bullshitting has stopped. Any fights have really stopped. Everyone knows their role. Everyone's pulling together because everyone sees that there's a common picture, and the common picture is to fucking get the shit done and become, fucking Marines. That's what we're there for. So, that helped out a lot, and that was a great lesson in itself, right? That teamwork, that camaraderie, and becoming a Marine was just all I wanted to do, right? And that's all these other dudes really wanted to do as well. So, going through the different phases, I remember getting to the Crucible, and this is like the final step for us, right? The Crucible, and I was so excited, but I was so scared at the same time, because there's like this big hike you have to do. And I was a California Marine, so there was like big ass mountains over there. And, but just prepping for it, and like not really prepping for it, but like mentally prepping for it, because it's coming, and you're about to face your biggest fear of like, this is it, this is the last step. Like once I do this, like I'm going to be a Marine, for the most part, I'm going to be a Marine. So having that opportunity, it was just so great. And so just like really navigating boot camp, going through like you go through like your drill phase, you go through the rifle marksmanship phase, go through like your combat arms phase, go through all these other, just these basic things that all they really are doing is breaking you down and building you up the way the system needs you to be built up. Preparing you not for necessarily war, but preparing you for like instant obedience to orders, preparing you for the hard challenges you're going to face yourself, where they are going to need you to execute and perform and not question yourself, not quit on yourself, right? Even if that's something in the garrison, like, hey, I need everyone to go outside and move those big, heavy boxes or whatever. You believe it or not, you're going to be moving a bunch of boxes in the military, no matter where you go. And sometimes that shit can break people because it's a hard laboring task. And if you're not into what you're doing, right, it's going to be very fucking hard, and your energy and your shit's going to be affected by it. So the others around you. So, it's really cool to be trained how the best way you can be for success for such a dynamic, anything can happen possibility. So boot camp, they do an amazing job. And I imagine almost all the military service branches, like boot camps, do the same thing. Any type of indoctrination, it's really crazy the amount of thought processes that goes behind it all. But I tell you what, when you're there and you're low crawling, you got dirt on your face, you got a cut on your hand, on your knee, or you maybe got throw up on yourself, or you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you're carrying a heavy ass pack, or you're carrying your pack plus someone else's pack plus someone else's rifle, or whatever the scenario is, when you're like, fuck this is hard as fuck, and you keep moving your feet in front of you, and you keep your fucking head up, and you smile through it, that's when you grow. That's when you feel that sense of pride. That's when you feel like, holy fuck, I got this. So that's really important. Like I really think those feelings are fucking great to have and identify early on, because there's going to be so many hard times in your life, whether in the military or not, after this point in time, having that perspective of like, holy shit, I can really get myself through a bunch of hard situations. Really no different, right? Maybe you had a hard situation dealt with in high school before, and harnessing that thought process might help you while you're in boot camp. But boot camp should be fucking challenging. But dude, hopefully you're pumped. Hopefully you're like a secret like super fan of it. And yeah, there's gonna be times where you hate it. There was a time where I remember I was kind of like waterboarded in my bed. Seemed like I woke up. My drill instructor's like pouring my canteen on my face, and I wasn't like pinned down or anything. But he's like checking your discipline, and I would just stay there, and I was just like, just kind of take it, right? And I thought I was being tough back then, and one thing I would never feel violated. I never felt abused. I'm like, man, I'm super fucking pumped that I'm getting a chance to prove to myself that like, yo, dude, I belong here. And I'm like, I'm destined for this. This is so awesome, right? I'm not freaking out that I'm just getting water poured on me. Like, I'm even pumped that I'm getting water poured on me at boot camp. This is so sick that I'm here. It's just one next step closer to what I want to achieve in life. And, so remember, even those shitty times or those questionable times in your life, like, you know, just don't forget your focus of why you're there. Don't forget that, like, hey, every one of those opportunities is something for you to grow and just like super be grateful for. And, you know, boot camp, I remember there's a point in time where like you can tell what phase you are, like gangway third phase, and you're getting ready to graduate. You've already done a crucible. The crucible is this like really hard ass long event. To be honest, I don't even remember all the details because the motions and the lessons I took away from it. But I remember you're running around, you're low crawling, barbed wire. And, you're carrying heavy ass packs, and at the time you don't really carry heavy packs in boot camps, but now you're carrying like heavy packs and ammo cans, which is like anything is heavier than nothing. So it was like a different experience. You're wearing like all this like Vietnam, like really shitty gear, and it's just so heavy and so uncomfortable, and you don't know anything, and all you're told is just to go and don't fall out. And you're like, oh my God, am I gonna make this shit? And it's just not quitting. It's like, hey, move here, move there, low crawl here, throw this grenade, do this thing, do that thing, and you're just like, you're like heavy breathing all over the place, and you're really just like, what am I doing? But never forget why it is you're doing there. All right? Never forget that. And it should be a fun time. In your head, it's probably gonna be very painful and shitty on the outside, but in your head, try to find the best out of it to get the situation. So after boot camp, or sorry, after this crucible event, right? This is towards the very end of boot camp. You're like getting ready to graduate, so you're getting fitted for your uniform, and you're like super fucking pumped. You think you're like the bee's knees, and like you're untouchable. But you still got like 2 weeks left, and you're still playing some like stupid games. But you're getting to like write letters. At this point in time, you've already figured out like how to like, hey, tell people you're going to church so you can like link up with your friends at a certain time because you write letters to platoon, and you figure out a way to like to operate. You figure out a way how to be disciplined and operate in the gray. And at least I did, and I enjoyed it all, and it definitely set me up for success. And maybe you'll find the same thing for you. But those last few weeks of boot camp, it was crazy. And I remember, crazy story for me, because you're not allowed to like touch other recruits. You're not allowed to get in fights. Like you can get in a lot of trouble for fights. And I remember that there was like this one event that happened, and I like pushed this dude. Like it was fucking crazy. And they're like, "Are you fucking nuts?" They're like, "We could drop you for this." And I was the guy, and at the time, I was also getting ready to go up for like the board. Like I was competing against all the other guides to be honor graduates. So basically, if you're honor graduate, you are going to get promoted extra. You're going to get an extra promotion, and you'll be like the number one guy that graduates. And so I was competing against all these other guides, our scores, our runs, shootings, qualifications, all the things get graded. And you get graded. You have to get these like board questions, a lot of Marine Corps questions. You get asked, and you have to answer a lot of policies, procedures, right? A lot of like discipline shit. There's infinite stuff they can ask you. And I remember this around the same time, and I fucking just like, I just got that, right? I just smoked that whole thing. I got it. I knew I was gonna be honor graduate, but here I am, like a few days left to graduate, and I like pushed this dude, and I was like, holy fuck, dude! I just threw it all away, all away for something so stupid. And the drill instructor, he'd like fucking life lessons the shit out of me. He was like, "What the fuck you doing?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, I'm just literally doing what you told me to do. You're like just like a robot, kind of dumb. But it all buffed out, and I was able to graduate as company honor graduate, and I graduated boot camp as a lance corporal because I had three buddies of mine in boot camp with me after I was already signed up for the platoon as a poolee. So I was able to get their credit. So at this point in time, now I'm graduating number one. I got promoted to lance corporal, and it was such a great feeling. I didn't, once again, I didn't feel like I was better than anybody. I just felt like I was like better than myself, right? I definitely I'm graduating boot camp now better than who I was when I got there. I felt super disciplined. I felt so motivated. I made such great friends already, and that our next chapter in life together was about to happen, and it was so exciting. You know, there's a lot of great stories that people can tell about boot camp. I hope that I was able to share with you, maybe not some of those cool stories, but really the perspective that kind of really drove me towards the military, drove me towards, wanting to be successful in boot camp, right? And really maximize the opportunity. So hopefully you were able to take that away. If not, we'll definitely crush this even more in depth in our live Q and A's. But we're gonna end this podcast here, right? You know, this next one we're gonna talk a little bit more about a little bit more about the kind of like my thought process on the leave period when I went to the School of Infantry, a little bit more in depth there, and then joining the fleet. Right, what to do? What did I do after boot camp? What's it like after boot camp? How was it like an experience for me? And that's what we're going to talk about next time on the Operators Association podcast. I am so pumped to be here. I hope you enjoyed this. If it's not what you expected, let us know. Let me know. But like I said, I like to do things a little differently. Anyone can tell a great story about like, oh, this cool things happened to me, but I really wanted to share the experience because, if you're in the military now, or if you're wanting to join the military and listening to this podcast, I want you to know that having feelings and emotions of like doubt, fear, worry, those are all fucking perfectly normal. Okay. But what's going to set you apart is how you execute, right? How you face those fears and you push forward. So never forget that. Thank you guys so much. And I will check you guys next time.